What would happen if one day you discovered your dog doesn't just love you, but is actually building its entire world around you? Neuroscience shows that, in some dogs, attachment is not just an emotion, it is a rewiring of the nervous system itself. Their heartbeat changes when you appear. Stress hormones decrease when they hear your voice. The brain activates its reward center simply from your scent. But here's the part that surprises many people. Only a very small number of dogs form this level of deep attachment. Most dogs love, but only a few see you as a safe anchor within their survival system. And when that happens, they begin to display incredibly subtle behaviors. Very small, very easy to miss. But if you notice them, you'll realize that you are not just the one who feeds them. You are the emotional and neurological center of their world. And the first sign begins with something almost invisible. It's synchronization, not obedience, not following commands, but the synchronization of the nervous system. When a dog forms a deep attachment, its body begins to unconsciously regulate itself around you. Pay attention to this. When you sit down and truly relax, does your dog take a few minutes before relaxing too? When you sigh, does it sigh as well? When you're stressed and your breathing becomes faster, does it start becoming more alert? This is not a coincidence. In biology, this phenomenon is called co-regulation, the mutual regulation of emotions through the nervous system. It only happens when one living being sees another as a source of safety. If a dog does not feel deeply attached, its body will maintain a baseline level of alertness. Muscles slightly tense, ears slightly raised, breathing shallow and quick. But when you are nearby, and it truly trusts you, you'll notice the moment of transition. The shoulders drop, the stomach muscles soften, the jaw relaxes. A long, slow sigh escapes. That is when the sympathetic nervous system survival mode gives way to the parasympathetic nervous system safety mode. In other words, it is no longer preparing to run. It is no longer ready to defend itself. It chooses to rest. And an animal only rests deeply when it believes someone else is keeping watch for it. If your dog can sleep deeply beside you, if it only truly calms down when you are there, that is not dependency. That is trust at a biological level. And if you think that is already profound, the next sign is even more subtle. Because when a dog is truly attached, it doesn't just regulate its body around you. It begins reading your emotions before you even realize you are changing. It begins reading your emotions before you even realize you are changing. This is where things become even deeper. Most dogs look to their owners for signals. But deeply attached dogs don't just look, they observe. Have you ever felt its gaze while you were sitting quietly, saying nothing, not even calling its name? No food, no leash sounds, no rewards, just you and it watching your face. Not out of curiosity, but because it is analyzing you. Studies on canine cognition show that dogs' brains are especially sensitive to human facial expressions, particularly around the eyes and jaw muscles. Very small changes such as a slight tightening of the jaw, eyebrows lowering, breathing becoming a little heavier. They notice, and if the attachment is deep enough, they respond. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in incredibly subtle ways. They move closer, lie near your feet, or gently rest their chin on your lap, not to beg, not to seek attention, but to help regulate the emotional state of the pack. In attachment psychology, this is called secure attachment monitoring, the behavior of observing and stabilizing the primary attachment figure. This is commonly seen in young children with their parents, and far more rarely in animals. If your dog frequently checks on your emotional state, even when you are not interacting with it, it means you have become its emotional reference point. But here is the remarkable part. Deeply attached dogs do not only respond to negative emotions, they respond to joy as well. When you genuinely laugh, not a polite social laugh, their energy activates instantly. When your voice softens slightly, their ears shift position, their body turns toward you. That shows their nervous system is synchronized with yours at an even more refined level. They are not just living beside you, they are living with you, And if you think that is simply attention, then notice this. A dependent dog follows you because it is afraid of losing you, but a securely attached dog watches you because you matter to it. The difference lies in the energy. No panic, no anxiety, just conscious presence. And when an animal is calm enough to observe you, instead of worrying about the environment, it is saying something very clearly. You are the center of my emotional world. But the next sign is where you begin to see the difference between affection and priority. But the next sign is where you begin to see the difference between affection and priority. Love is an emotion. Priority is a choice. And choice is what reveals the true depth of attachment. Notice this. There is a soft bed in the room, a quiet corner, comfortable, safe. But your dog chooses to lie on the hard floor, right beside your chair, not touching you, not bothering you, just being there. Why? Because for deeply attached dogs, closeness matters more than comfort. In attachment psychology, this is called proximity seeking without anxiety, seeking closeness without panic. A dependent dog becomes distressed if you leave the room, but a securely attached dog is different. It does not need to cling to you. It simply needs to know where you are. Notice what happens when you move to another room. It may not follow immediately, but a few minutes later, it appears, quietly, without drawing attention, just adjusting the distance. That is not habit. That is orientation. In a dog's nervous system, when one individual becomes an anchor, the brain begins encoding that person's location as a central point of reference. Like a compass, it does not need to look constantly, but it always needs to know the direction. If your dog frequently places itself within sight of you, even when something more interesting is farther away, that reveals something very clear. You are not just the one who feeds it. You are the axis around which its environment revolves. And when an animal chooses your presence over its own comfort, that is no longer just emotion. That is biological priority. But there is an even stronger sign than this, because when attachment reaches its deepest level, dogs begin doing something that, in the wild, is incredibly dangerous. But there is still a sign even stronger than that, because when attachment reaches its deepest level, dogs begin doing something that, in the wild, is extremely dangerous. They let down their guard. Think about this. In the wild, deep sleep is a high-risk behavior. When entering REM sleep, the body completely relaxes. Reflexes slow down. Hearing becomes less sensitive. The instinct to flee is almost entirely switched off. An animal only dares to sleep deeply when it believes someone else is standing watch. And if your dog can lie on its side, belly exposed, legs stretched out, jaw relaxed, occasionally twitching in a dream, right beside you, that is not random. It is a biological declaration. I trust this place enough to turn off survival mode. But it does not stop there. Deeply attached dogs display an even more subtle behavior. They allow you to touch their most vulnerable areas, their throat, their belly, the inside of their legs. In canine communication, these areas are always protected because they are the easiest places to attack. If a dog allows you to touch them without tensing its muscles, without pulling away, without anxious lip-licking, without turning its head to avoid you, that means it is not merely tolerating you. It genuinely trusts you. And here is the climax of it all. When an animal lets down its defenses, it is placing its life in your hands, not in a dramatic sense, but in a biological one. Its brain has determined that you are not a threat, but a source of protection. And when that happens, you are no longer just its owner. You become a mobile safe zone, a place where it can bring its vulnerability without fear. But if you think that is the highest form of attachment, the final sign goes even beyond that. Because the final sign is not just about emotion, it is tied to the most primitive instinct of survival. And when a dog overrides that instinct because of you, you will understand exactly what place you hold in its world. And when a dog overrides that instinct because of you, you will understand exactly what place you hold in its world. Let's talk about the most primitive instinct of all, food. In evolution, food is not just a reward, It is survival itself. A dog's nervous system has been programmed over thousands of years to prioritize the scent of food above almost everything else. But in dogs that form deep attachment, something different happens. Your presence begins activating the reward center as strongly as or even more strongly than food. If your dog has its favorite treat right in front of it, and all it takes is for you to softly call its name, not shouting, not giving a command, just a gentle sound, and it turns away from the food to come to you. That is not obedience. That is choice. The choice of connection over immediate survival instinct. In the brain, this means the priority system has changed. You are no longer standing beside instinct. You have risen above it. And that is the rarest level of attachment. Because in the animal world, survival always comes first. But if a dog is willing to momentarily set aside survival instinct in order to prioritize you, then you are not just its owner. You are the emotional center of its world. And that is something very few people ever truly experience. And that is something very few people truly get to experience. Because not every dog forms attachment at this level. Many dogs love you. Many are excited when you come home. But only a rare few see you as the stabilizing center of both their nervous system and survival instincts. If your dog breathes deeply while lying beside you, if it reads your emotions when you say nothing at all, if it chooses being near you over choosing comfort, if it sleeps deeply beside you without defensiveness, and especially if it has ever walked away from food simply because you softly called its name, then you are not just its owner. You are its anchor. Now, I want you to be honest. How many of these signs does your dog show? If you recognize even one, comment the number 1 below. I want to see how many rare bonds exist here. And if you want to understand canine psychology on a deeper level, don't leave yet. The next video will talk about the signs that a dog is beginning to emotionally withdraw, and most owners do not realize it until it is too late.